everybody, and welcome back to Vintage Thursday. So today we have got the video that not everybody been waiting for, but like 3 people have been waiting for this. So we have got the combine in the grain store. We got a grain store now, see. Yeah, this is where we put the concrete down a little while back. The combine is mobile. So you saw us start the combine probably a month ago. It was untouched between then and a few days back, but it has moved. We have made a start on getting it ready for work this year. So, better start off, I guess. What is it? Because I don't think did I say in the starting video? I can't remember. Anyway, so it is a Massey Ferguson 400. Date is a little bit unsure. It's early 1960s. It's not as easy to get a build date from a serial number on a combine as it is on a tractor, and the date is not that freely available. But it is, going this side, it is an early one because although there's not much paint left, the early ones had grey wheels and the later ones had yellow wheels. So it's an early-ish one. Let's leave it at that. 10-foot cut, fixed header, so this header does not come off, it is permanently attached. 10 foot is fine for gateways and stuff, we can get away with it around here. You could have had an 8-foot header. I'm not sure if 12s were on the 400s or not. That might have been the 500 for the 12-foot header. So yeah, so it was like a 4 and a 500 was like a two model range that then went on to the 410 and 510 and the 415 and the 515 as the years went by. And we did actually film a 515 last year, so if you can go back and watch that video if you want to. So we have found a few issues with the combine. Like we said before, it has been laid up for 12 years, untouched really, for 12 years since we last used it. And it has created a few issues over the years. We've got a few belts to replace. All the guards are off it in a minute because we've been fiddling, so that's why it's all missing. This will all be covered once we actually get working. So when we put it away, all the belts were slackened off, which is kind of the way you store stuff. A few of the belts over the years have deteriorated, so we've had to replace them. We've got some new ones already, and some are on order. So standard cutter bar, auger brings it into the center, and then it goes up the elevator here, and then it will go up the elevator into the drum. So it goes up inside this housing and get some light. There is the threshing drum there, so that revolves around. That turns. Obviously I can't turn it because we're turning the whole machine, but that is variable speed, so we can change the speed of the drum depending on the crop we're threshing. So the crop goes up through there. Okay, so if I shine the torch right, hopefully up in the front there, let's try and, oh dear. Okay, so up in the front, just on the end of my finger, if we can, it won't focus, there it is. That is the underside of the drum. There is the concave is where all the threshed grain passes through the concave, and then the straw comes out the back of the drum out onto, so in the front there, that's like a canvas curtain that stops anything being thrown too far. So it hits the curtain, drops down onto the straw walkers, which are these things here, which are jiggling up and down, and the little spiky teeth work the straw towards the back of the machine. So the straw walkers are got holes in, and any grain that is threshed but stuck in the straw gets shook out and lands on this pan here. And so the straw walkers are shaking, and this pan here is shaking as well, and any grain then works its way down. This is on an angle, works its way down to the sieves. Okay, so this is in this area here is where the sieves would sit, but they're taken out at the moment. So back to the threshed grains that fell out through the concave, they will fall down onto that grain pan there, and that is shaken backwards and forwards, and that, as the movement shakes it back, the grain walks up there, drops off from the back of it onto this area here, which is where sieves would be. Okay, so this is the sieve. This is the top sieve. There is a lower sieve there that's taken out as well. So the grain enters from this way, and this is shaken backwards and forwards and up through these louvered sieve sections. If we look at it from the other way, there's little holes where threshed grains will fall through. Now these are adjustable, so you can pivot them and open these holes more. So the grain and chaff is passing this way. From underneath, wind is generated and is blowing up, and that lifts chaff, light straw away out of the back of the machine, and then any grain and unthreshed ears will fall down through these holes down onto the lower sieve, which is here. So this is, so we're looking at this from the back. So grain will drop through the upper sieve, which sits here, to the lower sieve. Any clean grain will drop through this into the grain pan, and any unthreshed heads, so again there's air blowing through this, any unthreshed heads, they won't go through this sieve, they will come over the back, drop off into an auger that then comes up this elevator into a re-thrasher unit here. So this is flying around, it's rubber fingers with steel ends on, so that's flying around against a serrated plate that sits here. That re-threshes any unthreshed heads and fires them back onto the top sieve. So clean grain that goes through ends up in the clean grain auger, and that goes up this elevator here. It passes through the tank, and then that gets collected up into the tank ready for discharge. So apart from a few belts that need replacing and just general oiling and servicing and getting things freed up, we have found a major problem with the combine, and it is in the area below the sieves. So once I find my torch, we will check out our major problem. Okay, so we are back under the straw walker section. So up here is the drum, this is where the grain comes, and this here is where the sieves sit. So the top one sits here, lower one sits here, and here is the deflector plates for the fan. There's a big fan down it, you can just see it down in there. That's spinning, blowing air through the grain, which is passing through the sieves. So like I said earlier on, the returns, the unthreshed heads, pass over the top of the lower sieve, which sits in this slot, and they drop over the back, fall down here onto an auger in the bottom there. You can just see, hopefully, maybe there's an auger in the bottom there, and that is where it takes it up to the re-thresher we saw outside. And then the cleaned grain falls through the lower sieve, hits this plate, and gets carried down into the clean grain auger, which runs in the bottom there. And if we go far enough forward, you can see our major problem. So this here is a trough into which the clean grain auger runs, and you can see we've got floor. So over our 12-year storage period, we have rusted the little trough that the auger runs in has rusted out. So that's a fairly major repair that we need to make quite quickly before we can use it. So this is the auger that runs in that auger trough. So this is what takes the clean grain towards that end. So there's a sprocket on this end, which is what drives the elevator chain that runs up inside of here, takes it in, deposits the grain into the tank. So apart from a few belts, like I said earlier on, in general greasing and maintenance and oiling and getting ready, that auger trough is our major cause for concern, and that's our major, that is the biggest point. So that is the biggest repair we have to do before we can get going. But don't worry, plans are in hand, and we, fingers crossed, we have got the gear here to repair that. So that's what we're going to do. Right, so things have moved on a few days, as you can see. Combine is now out in the open. So what have we done? So far it's had a full grease round. Put on a few new belts. There's 2 new belts up in the engine bay. There's a new belt on here, new belt on the refreshing system. So we are now got a full set of functional belts. Oils are checked, everything is greased. What else have we done? I suppose the big question is, have we mended the hole? Let me get a torch. Right, so as you can tell, we're now inside the machine, and look what we have. We have a whole new floor, new bottom of the auger trough thingy, and you probably can't see, but it comes back just slightly underneath this plate. And because everything that is new is fixed to the body of the combine, this part here moves backwards and forwards with the sieves. So obviously it's bolted underneath, and the clean grain runs underneath this panel into the auger, so it runs down and comes through there. Look, there's some fingers. So this, so I didn't show you any of this because I didn't do it. So brother set to, and he rolled the channel, you know, the auger trough, and then formed the angles on for that. It does very slightly exit the body of the combine there, just a little bit, and as you can see, we've got a join here. It was done in 2 halves simply because we can't roll the full width of the combine with the roller we've got. It's just not wide enough. Yeah, so there we go, and the auger all turns nicely, no rubbing. It's a proper, very proper job, and not an easy fix, but it's a fix nonetheless, and we have managed to complete it, so that's good news. So with the hole fixed, the next big job it's all taken apart, but we'll show you what it is anyway. So these 2 big chunky belts here are what take care of the actual motion of the machine, the forward and reverse. So this belt connects to a shaft coming off the back of the engine via another belt, and this belt here connects to the gearbox, which is this pulley here. And so what this does here, there is the bit that's taken off is a fork that pivots on this pin, and it carries this pulley, and what that does by this ram here, this hydraulic variator, it varies the pitch of these pulleys, and then it changes your speed, like it gives you a variable, infinitely variable speed. But there was a problem with this and where this ram connects on. So let's go now and have a go at fixing that. So here is the variator drive fork thingy. Okay, so it pivots on here on the pin coming out the combine. Hydraulic ram sits in here. The 2 pulleys sit in here, and the ram pushes this assembly up and down, and that varies the speed, varies the pitch on the pulleys, and also the forward speed of the combine. So as you can see, what has happened, the ram has torn that weld. It's torn all across here, and again just a little bit hanging on there. So I've got to do a major repair job on this, so let's get to it. Okay, so here we go, all fixed. It's a bit bright, just trying to see, make sure we're welded right the way around. So we've gone it's gone all, so we've welded all the way around here, around the back, along here, and back to here. So that should hold. Let's put it all back together. Right, so we're getting very close to finish now. We've got the bottom sieve in, so what we're going to do now is just slide the top sieve in. It was just a little bit rusty on the edges where it's been stood for so long, or sat for so long, so we've just polished these edges up, so that's where they sit in the machine. So we've just cleaned them up. Just going to put a little bit of oil on them just to slide them in. Probably not ideal to put oil on it in a dusty environment, but you know, they were stuck and they were a bit rusty, so a bit of lubrication for a few days. It's going to work, and then we can take it out and clean it to put it to bed. Hopefully that's the plan. So just going to get some oil and then we'll just slide it back in. Where's our plate? Oh, we don't want to put that in because we've got to set these yet anyway. Yeah. Right, that'll do for now then. Right, so everything is ready to go. Let's go and have a try. But that'll be next video, obviously. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.